this question, you have to point out when the extrusion of second polar body from egg nucleus occurs. Option A, after entry of sperm but before fertilization. Now, the second polar body is extruded after the sperm enters the egg but before the completion of fertilization. And the sequence of events are, first of all, during oogenesis, the secondary oocyte completes meiosis 1, but it is arrested in metaphase of meiosis 2. But upon the entry of the sperm into the oocyte, it triggers the secondary oocyte to complete meiosis 2. And as meiosis 2 completes, the oocyte extrudes the second polar body, which occurs just before fertilization. Hence, it is the correct option. Option B, after fertilization. It is incorrect because, as already mentioned, the second polar body is extruded before the sperm and the egg nuclei fuse, which is before fertilization. Option C, before the entry of sperm into ovum. It is also incorrect. The secondary oocyte only completes meiosis 1 in response to sperm entry. Option D, simultaneously with first cleavage. It is also incorrect. The first cleavage occurs after fertilization is complete, but extrusion of the second polar body occurs before fertilization. In this question, you have to identify the correct sequence for the transport of sperm cells in the male reproductive system. Now, it starts with seminiferous tubules, that is, site of sperm production within the testes, followed by retitestes, that is, the network of tubules, followed by vasa efferentia, followed by epididymis, which is a coil tube where sperm mature and are stored, followed by vas deferens, and then ejaculatory duct, which is the passage which is formed by the union of vas deferens and the seminal vesicle, through which sperm and seminal fluid pass, and this is followed by urethra, the tube that carries semen, that is sperm and seminal fluid, out of the body, and finally the urethral meatus, that is the external opening of the urethra through which semen is ejaculated out from the body. Hence, the correct answer is option B. In this question, you have to match the components given in list 1 with that of list 2. The placenta secretes human chorionic gonadotropin, that is HCG, a hormone which is very essential for maintaining pregnancy as it supports the corpus luteum, ensuring continued progesterone production to sustain the uterine lining and the embryo. Thus, A matches with 2. Now, the zona pellucida, which is a glycoprotein layer surrounding the plasma membrane of the secondary oocyte, plays a very important role in sperm binding and initiating the acrosome reaction, which is very important or necessary for fertilization. And the secondary oocytes secretes this layer during oogenesis. Thus, B matches with 3. Now, the bulbourethral glands, also known as Cooper's glands, secrete a mucus-like fluid that helps to lubricate the urethra and the penis during sexual arousal. And this fluid also neutralizes traces of acidic urine in the urethra, thus creating a favorable environment for the sperm. Thus, C matches with 3. Leydig cells, which are found in the testes, are responsible for producing androgens. For example, testosterone. So it plays, that is the androgen plays, a key role in male sexual development as well as the expression of secondary sexual characteristics. Thus, D matches with 1. Hence, the correct answer is option B. In this question, you have to identify at what stage or when the meiotic division of a secondary oocyte is completed. Option A, after zygote formation. This is incorrect. The meiotic division of the secondary oocyte is completed before the formation of the zygote, and not after its formation. Option B, at the time of fusion of a sperm with an ovum. The secondary oocyte completes its second meiotic division only after the sperm penetrates the oocyte during fertilization. So, upon fusion with the sperm, the oocyte undergoes a cascade of biochemical processes that trigger the resumption of meiosis II, previously which was arrested at metaphase 2 stage. And this process involves the completion of meiosis II, resulting in the formation of mature ovum and a small polar body. Hence, this is the correct option. Option C, prior to ovulation. This is incorrect. The secondary oocyte is arrested at metaphase 2 before ovulation and only completes meiosis II after fertilization by a sperm, as already stated. Option D, at the time of copulation. This is also incorrect. Copulation does not trigger the completion of meiosis. It leads to the fusion of the sperm and the oocyte that can promote the final meiotic division. In this question, you have to identify which of the given hormone levels will cause release of ovum, that is ovulation, from the Graafian follicle. Option A, low concentration of LH. This is incorrect. A SART gene luteinizing hormone, that is LH, and not its low concentration that triggers ovulation. Option B, low concentration of FSH. This is also incorrect. Now, follicle stimulating hormone, that is FSH, it helps in follicle development and its concentration decreases just before ovulation due to the feedback from estrogen. Option C, high concentration of estrogen. Now, in the ovarian cycle, a mature Graafian follicle, that is a fully developed follicle, produces high concentration of estrogen as it approaches ovulation. And this elevated estrogen level plays a very important role in stimulating the LH surge, now which is the peak of LH secretion by the anterior pituitary. And why this LH surge is important? Because it causes the follicle to rupture, releasing the ovum from the ovary, which is known as ovulation. And it also transforms the remnants of the follicle into corpus luteum, which will then secrete the progesterone to support the stages of early pregnancy if fertilization occurs. Hence, this is the correct option. Option D, high concentration of progesterone. This is also incorrect. Progesterone level rises after ovulation during the luteal phase, and it is not responsible for the triggering or the release of the ovum. In this question, you have to identify that in mammals where the receptors for sperm binding are present. Option A, zona pellucida. The zona pellucida is a glycoprotein layer surrounding the plasma membrane of the oocyte, which contains specific receptors, that is ZP3 for sperm binding, which are crucial for species-specific sperm recognition during fertilization in mammals. Hence, it is the correct option. Option B, corona radiata. It is incorrect. It is a layer of cells surrounding the oocyte and the zona pellucida, which primary role is to mainly in supporting the oocyte and aiding in nutrient transfer. Option C, vitelline membrane. It is incorrect. It is a term used more commonly in non-mammalian species, for example, amphibians or birds, but not in mammals. Option D, perivitelline space. It is also incorrect. It is a gap between the zona pellucida and the oocyte plasma membrane and does not contain any receptors for sperm binding. In this question, you have to identify the component which is not an important for initiation of parturition in humans. Now, parturition, which is the process of giving birth, involves the expulsion of the fully developed fetus, and this natural process is regulated by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. Now coming to the option. Option A, release of prolactin. It is not an important component of parturition. Prolactin is primarily responsible for stimulating a milk production after childbirth. Hence, it is the correct answer. Option B, increase in estrogen and progesterone ratio. It is an important component for the parturition. And estrogen promotes uterine contractions while progesterone inhibits them. So, as labor approaches, progesterone levels decrease relative to estrogen, thus facilitating uterine contractions. Hence, it is incorrect option. Option C, synthesis of prostaglandins. It is also an important component. Prostaglandins are crucial for initiating labor because they help in softening of the cervix and enhance uterine contractions, thus facilitating childbirth. Hence, it is incorrect option. Option D, release of oxytocin. It is also a very important component. Oxytocin is a hormone synthesized by the hypothalamus and secreted by the posterior pituitary gland that stimulates uterine contractions, which are very necessary for the progression of labor. So it plays a key role in both the initiation and progression of parturition. Hence it is incorrect. In this question, two statements are given, and based on these two statements, you have to choose the correct option. Statement 1. The release of sperms into the seminiferous tubules is called spermiation. Now, it is correct. Spermiation is the process where mature sperms are released from the Sertoli cells into the seminiferous tubules. Statement 2. Spermiogenesis is the process of formation of sperms from spermatogonia. It is incorrect. Spermiogenesis is the process of the transformation of spermatids into mature sperms. The process of formation of sperms from spermatogonia is called spermatogenesis and not spermiogenesis. Hence, the correct answer is option B. Options A, C, and D are incorrect as these options include incorrect combinations. In this question, you have to identify the statements that are true for spermatogenesis but do not hold true for oogenesis. Statement A, it results in the formation of haploid gametes. Now, in both spermatogenesis and oogenesis, haploid gametes are formed, so it is true for both. Statement B, differentiation of gamete occurs after the completion of meiosis. Now, the spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa by the process of spermiogenesis. Hence, B is true only for spermatogenesis. Statement C, meiosis occurs continuously in a mitotically dividing stem cell population. Now, it is true for spermatogenesis only, as meiosis occurs continuously in a mitotically dividing stem cell population, that is spermatogonia in males. In contrast, oogenesis starts in fetal life and halts at prophase 1 until puberty, with no continuous meiosis in the female stem cell population. Statement D, it is controlled by the luteinizing hormone, that is LH, and follicle stimulating hormone, that is FSH, secreted by the anterior pituitary. Now, both spermatogenesis and oogenesis are controlled by LH and FSH. Statement E, it is initiated at puberty. Now, it is true only for spermatogenesis, as spermatogenesis is a continuous process that begins at puberty. Now, oogenesis, on the other hand, begins during embryonic development of the female. Hence, the correct answer is option C. Options A, B, and D are incorrect as these includes incorrect combinations. In this question, two statements are given, and in the light of these two statements, you have to choose the correct answer. Statement 1, vas deferens receives a duct from seminal vesicle and opens into urethra as the ejaculatory duct. Now it is true, the vas deferens indeed receives a duct from the seminal vesicle and joins it to form the ejaculatory duct, which opens into the urethra. And this part of the male reproductive system is responsible for the passage of sperm and seminal fluid. Statement 2. The cavity of the cervix is called cervical canal, which along with vagina forms birth canal. Now statement 2 is also true. The cervical canal is the cavity of the cervix and it along with the vagina forms the birth canal, and this structure plays a critical role during childbirth by allowing the passage of the fetus. Thus, the correct answer is option B. Options A, C, and D are incorrect as these includes incorrect. In this question, two statements are given. One is assertion and the other is the reason. And in the light of these two statements, you have to choose the correct option. Now, both the assertion and reason are correct, but the reason does not adequately explain why the endometrium is necessary for blastocyst implantation. Now, the endometrium is vital for implantation as it provides support and protection for the developing embryo, not only supplying oxygen and nutrients, but also shielding it from microbial invasion during pregnancy. Thus, the correct answer is option C. Options A, B, and D are incorrect as these includes incorrect combination. In this question, you have to choose the correct statement regarding female reproductive cycle. Statement A. In non-primate mammals, cyclical changes during reproduction are called estrous cycle. Now, it is correct. In non-primates, the cyclical changes during reproduction are indeed called the estrous cycle. Statement B. First menstrual cycle begins at puberty and is called menopause. It is incorrect. The first menstrual cycle that begins at puberty is called menarche, not menopause. Menopause refers to the cessation of menstruation later in life. Statement C. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy. Now, it is correct. It can be indicative of pregnancy as the menstrual cycle is interrupted during pregnancy due to hormonal changes. D. Cyclic menstruation extends between menarche and menopause. It is also correct. The cyclic menstruation typically extends between menarche, the first menstruation, and menopause, the cessation of menstruation. Thus, the correct answer is option A. Options B, C, and D are incorrect as these include incorrect combinations. In this question, two statements are given, and in the light of these two statements, you have to choose the correct answer. Statement 1. The presence or absence of the hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity. Now, this is true because the hymen can be torn or stretched due to various non-sexual activities like sports, then cycling, the use of tampon, or even other physical activities. And some individuals may also naturally have an absent or very elastic hymen. Statement 2. The hymen is torn during full coitus only. Now, this is false because the hymen can be torn or stretched due to many non-sexual activities as already stated. So it does not conclude that it can be torn only with the sexual intercourse. Thus, Statement 1 is true, but statement 2 is false. Hence, the correct answer is option A. In this question, two statements are given. One is assertion and the other is the reason. And in the light of these two statements, you have to choose the correct option. Now, assertion states that breastfeeding during the initial period of infant growth is recommended by doctors for bringing a healthy baby. Now, this is correct because breastfeeding during the initial period of infant growth is highly recommended by doctors for promoting a healthy baby because breast milk provides essential nutrients as well as immune protection. Now, the reason states that the colostrum contains several antibodies absolutely essential to develop resistance for the newborn baby. Now, this is also correct because colostrum, which is the first milk produced by the mother, is very rich in antibodies like antibody A as well as other immune factors. And these are very important for helping the newborn to develop resistance to infections and build its immune system. Thus, both A and R are correct, and R is the correct explanation of A. Hence, the correct answer is option C. In this question, you have to identify which of the following is not a component of fallopian tube. Now, the fallopian tube consists of infundibulum, which is the funnel-shaped structure present nearer to the ovary, with the fimbriae to capture the ovum. Then the ampulla, which is the widest and longest part of the tube, where fertilization usually occurs, and isthmus, which is a narrow portion of the tube that connects it to the uterus. Thus, uterine fundus is not a part of the fallopian tube because it is the upper rounded part of the uterus which is located above the opening of the fallopian tube. Hence, the correct answer is option C. In this question, a flowchart is given and you have to identify what are being denoted by the letters A, B, C and D. Now letter A denotes FSH, which is a pituitary hormone. Letter B denotes Leydig cells, which are found in the interstitial space outside of the seminiferous tubules. Letter C denotes Sertoli cells, which are found inside the seminiferous tubules. And letter D indicates spermiogenesis, which is the process for the transformation of spermatids into spermatozoa. Hence, the correct answer is option C. This question, two statements are given. One is labeled as assertion and the other is labeled as reason. And in the context of these two statements, you have to choose the correct answer. Assertion states that during menstrual cycle, the ovulation takes place approximately on the 14th day. Now, it is correct. During the menstrual cycle, ovulation typically occurs around the 14th day of a 28th day cycle, and this timing is based on the release of ovum from the ovary. Reason: rapid secretion of LH in the middle of the menstrual cycle induces rupture of Graafian follicle and thereby the release of ovum. It is also correct. The rapid secretion of luteinizing hormone, that is LH, in the middle of the menstrual cycle triggers the rupture of the Graafian follicle leading to ovulation. And this surge in LH is what directly causes the release of the ovum. The reason given, that is the LH surge leading to ovulation, directly explains why ovulation occurs around the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. Thus, reason is the correct explanation of the given assertion. Hence, the correct answer is option C. You have to identify the correct option that depicts the route of milk ejection from human mammary gland. Now, the milk production begins in the mammary alveoli, which are small sac-like structures where milk is synthesized. Thus, C is followed by E, that is mammary tubule. The milk then moves from the mammary alveoli into the mammary tubules, which are small ducts that transport milk from the alveoli. It is followed by A, that is mammary duct. The mammary tubules merge into larger mammary ducts which carry milk farther along the pathway. Is followed by D, that is ampulla. The mammary ducts widen into the ampulla, which acts as a storage space for milk before it is ejected. And finally, B, that is lactiferous duct, where milk is ejected through the lactiferous ducts, which lead from the ampulla to the nipple, allowing milk to be released during breastfeeding. Thus, the correct answer is option C. That is, in this question, you have to match the structures given in list 1 to their respective features given in list 2. Now, the mons pubis is a rounded area of the fatty tissue located over the pubic bone and is covered by skin and pubic hair. Hence, A matches with 2. Now, the clitoris is a small, sensitive structure located at the top of the vulva above the labia minora. Now, B matches with 3. The hymen is a thin membrane that partially covers the vaginal opening in some individuals. Thus, C matches with 4. The labia majora are the larger outer folds of tissue that protect and surround the vaginal opening. Thus, D matches with 1. Hence, the correct answer is option A. Options B, C, and D are incorrect, as these options include incorrect combinations. In this question, you have to match the components given in list 1 with that of list 2. Now, parturition is the process of childbirth triggered by the fetal ejection reflex, which stimulates uterine contractions and leads to the delivery of the baby. Hence, A matches with 3. Now, the placenta is responsible for secreting human chorionic gonadotropin, that is HCG, which supports the early stages of pregnancy by maintaining the corpus luteum. Hence, B matches with 4. Now, colostrum is the first milk produced by the mother, which is rich in antibodies, providing passive immunity to the newborn. Hence, C matches with 1. Now, fimbriae are finger-like projections at the end of the fallopian tubes that help capture and guide the ovum from the ovary into the fallopian tube after ovulation. Hence, D matches with 2. Thus, the correct answer is option A. Options B, C, and D are incorrect, as they mismatch the definitions and functions of the terms provided in list 1 with list 2.